Nothing Don Henley has ever created has ever felt accidental. Even when the Eagles made their music sound effortless, there was usually an extraordinary amount of work happening behind the scenes. The harmonies had to be right, the arrangements had to feel natural, and every word had to carry enough weight to justify its place in the song. That attention to detail became one of Henley's defining characteristics as a musician. The Eagles may have made country rock sound effortless, but Henley was never interested in writing songs that were merely pleasant. He wanted them to say something. Part of that came from his background as an English major. Henley understood the power of language, and he treated lyrics as more than just something that had to fit around a melody. For him, the words were often the heart of the song. That was one of the things that separated him from many of the other country rock musicians of his generation. There was certainly no shortage of musicians writing about the simple pleasures of life, the open road, California sunsets, lost love, and freedom. But Henley was rarely satisfied with stopping there. He wanted something deeper, something that would remain in the listener's mind long after the song had ended. That is not to diminish Glenn Frey's contribution to the Eagles. Songs like Take It Easy and Peaceful Easy Feeling captured the spirit of California with remarkable clarity. They were songs that could make an entire landscape feel like a state of mind. But Henley's instincts often pulled him somewhere darker, somewhere more complicated. When it came to the songs he helped write and sing, he seemed to understand that the most memorable emotions were rarely the uncomplicated ones. The Eagles wrote love songs throughout their career, but many of their most powerful songs were hardly celebrations of romance. Even Best of My Love, one of the band's most beautiful songs, carries a bittersweet quality in Henley's voice. That emotional tension would become even more apparent in later songs, such as The Sad Cafe and Wasted Time. There was always something just beneath the surface, a sense that happiness was temporary, that love could disappear, and that memories could sometimes hurt more than the original heartbreak. For Henley, sad songs were not necessarily depressing songs, they were honest songs. Perhaps that is why he often gravitated toward them. He once suggested that the greatest romantic songs in history were often born from sadness. From Frank Sinatra to Paul McCartney, the best songwriters, in his view, seemed to do their best work writing about loss. As Henley put it, sad songs, all the great romantic songs throughout history, from Frank Sinatra to Paul McCartney, every great songwriter does his best work writing sad songs. You can only hear You Were My Sunshine so many times. On the other hand, I could listen to Yesterday by Paul McCartney over and over and over again. That comparison reveals a great deal about Henley's musical instincts. He was not dismissing happy songs, he was explaining why sadness could be more enduring. A cheerful song can make you feel good for 3 minutes, but a sad song can follow you for the rest of your life. And when Henley looked towards the Beatles, it was not necessarily the band's most innocent early hits that spoke to him most deeply. He admired the Fab Four, of course, but he appeared to be drawn more strongly to the songs that carried a sense of emotional weight. Songs like Yesterday. Released in 1965, the Paul McCartney composition represented a remarkable departure from the image of the Beatles as a four-piece rock band. There was no driving rhythm section, no electric guitar attack, and no full band arrangement. Instead, there was McCartney, an acoustic guitar, a string quartet, and a melody built around the feeling of regret. The song was incredibly simple, yet its emotional reach was enormous. Yesterday does not explain exactly what went wrong. It does not provide a solution to heartbreak. It simply captures the disorienting feeling of realizing that something once familiar has suddenly become unreachable. Yesterday, everything seemed different. Today, it is gone. That feeling is universal, and it is perhaps the reason Henley could listen to the song over and over and over again. For someone who grew up surrounded by the emotional traditions of country music, that connection makes perfect sense. Some of the most devastating country songs ever recorded have been built around the same idea. Love is most powerful when it is lost. George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today remains one of the clearest examples. Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You found enormous power in separation, while later the Chicks would turn heartbreak into songs such as You Were Mine. Different artists, different generations, and different musical styles, but the same emotional truth. Heartbreak is one of the few experiences that almost everyone understands. The Eagles have always existed somewhere between rock, country, folk, and pop, but throughout Don Henley's career, one influence has remained remarkably consistent: the power of emotional pain. Not because sadness is necessarily better than happiness, but because it's often more revealing. The songs that stay with us are frequently the ones that remind us of something we have lost, someone we once loved, or a version of ourselves that no longer exists. That is the strange power of a song like Yesterday. You can hear it when you're young and simply admire the melody. You can hear it years later and suddenly understand the lyrics differently. And eventually, if life gives you enough memories, the song can feel as though it was written specifically for you. Perhaps that is why Don Henley could return to it again and again and again, because the greatest sad songs don't simply make us feel bad, they remind us that we have lived. And sometimes the fact that a song can still make you well up after all these years is proof that despite everything, you are still human.